Hi everyone, and welcome to our third and final Navigo at Home live event. And we have been sharing tips and strategies on using digital technologies for supporting reading development in primary age children. The iRead project is a 4-year innovation research project that's funded by the EU Horizon 2020 programme. And the project is investigating and designing personalised reading apps for primary age children. You can find out more information about the iRead project on our website, iread-project.eu. So today we have a very special session in store for you, and it's intended for children. And the topic will be Ask the Game Designers. So we're joined today by Drew Wilkins and Tom Zagatos from Fish in a Bottle, who developed and built our Navigo game alongside our project team partners. We really hope that you'll enjoy the session, and as always, feel free to add your comments in the comment section below throughout the talk. And yeah, we'd love to hear all of your questions from all of our budding game designers. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers. We have Drew Wilkins from Fish in a Bottle, who is Head of Educational Content and founder and owner of Fish in a Bottle, and Tom Zagatos, who is a video games programmer. Okay, thanks, and over to you, Drew and Tom.
Thanks, Ray. Morning, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Drew Wilkins, and I'm one of the founders and owners of Fish in a Bottle, and we're the company responsible for developing Navigo as part of the Horizon 2020 funded project. Tom, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Drew. Hello, everyone. My name is Tom, and I'm a video game programmer at Fish in a Bottle, and I'm one of the programmers that worked on Navigo.
So I'm going to just share my screen 1 second, and we've got a few slides that I'll talk through for you. Okay. So hopefully you're all seeing that okay. So there are just over 7.5 billion people in the world, and most recent statistics estimate that about 2.5 billion of them play video games. So about 1 out of every 3 people you meet is a video game player. The games industry is very big. So the games industry, that's all of the people who make and sell video games, and that industry is worth more than the movie industry, where everyone who makes films, and worth more than the music industry. Both of those put together, along with all other entertainment industries combined. So video games are very large. Fish in a Bottle are one of the many companies who make video games. We're based right in the middle of England in a place called Leamington Spa. Leamington Spa is one of the biggest hubs for game development in the United Kingdom, and it's the biggest outside of London. In and around Leamington, there are about 34 different games development companies, and about 900 people in Leamington make games as their job. So this is our office in Leamington, where we'd normally be working. At the moment, due to the pandemic, we're not working in the office, we're all working remotely. And I thought I'd show you some of the games that we produce, and let you have a look at the kind of things that we're making when we're not making Navigo. These are a few of the different TV shows we've made games for, and I'm sure you'll recognize a few of them. And I'm going to show you some videos from a few of the other games to give you a bit of an idea of the kind of thing we do. This, I think you'll probably recognize the brand. So this is a game we produced for Nick Jr. For Peppa Pig.
Basketball.
But who will we play?
Well...
Hello!
The parents have come to take the children home.
I know! You can play the grown-ups.
But they are bigger than us.
Ah, but you've been taught basketball by Daddy Coach.
Yes, let's play them. We're the children's team. Yay!
We're the grown-ups team.
All right! I'm quite good at cricket.
Yes, well, this is basketball.
You throw the ball through the hoop, but you can only use your hands. Or your trunk. But not your feet.
Ready, steady, go! Short.
Hooray!
So games have different purposes. So this particular game for Peppa Pig is just for fun, but some games are there to help teach you things. So educational games.
Basket.
So this next video shows off a project we did for BBC Bite Size that some of you might be familiar with from school. So this is an educational game that helps to teach you how to touch type. So how to do your typing. So it's called Dance Mat Typing, and this is one of the songs from the game.
Up in the Alpine mountains with the air so fresh and clear, the ground it seems so far away and clouds feel very near. We love the sound of Alphorns, but your typing we adore. You've mastered M and V so far, and now it's time for more. Keep practicing your typing, and one day you will be the most amazing typist in the whole country.
And finally, another one of our BBC Teach games that's come out relatively recently. So this is, I say, for BBC Teach, and this helps to teach you about how music is put together.
Calling all music fans. Do you ever wonder how a song fits together? Maybe start with some percussion. Then add a melody. How about some lyrics?
Yeah, I am a robot. I go beep, 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 pop.
Learn how a song is made of layers. Feel the song's beat and join in yourself.
This is how I dance.
Or add to the song yourself. Have fun and learn about music. Check out Bring the Noise, Play It. Available on BBC Teach.
Too many clicks. So finally, I thought I'd show you a slightly different game or use of games technology, just very quickly. This is an installation into the Museum of Natural History in Oxford. And in this game, you take control of a submarine and get to explore the oceans of the Earth millions of years ago to explore how the first creatures came about. I'll just show you this quickly. So we make all sorts of different games for different people. And in order to make those games, there are lots of different jobs in the games industry. There is actually loads of different jobs, but I'm going to go through some of the main ones that are used for making a game. So the first of those roles is the producer, and that's largely what I do these days. So I oversee the development of the game and make sure that everything runs smoothly and that the game does everything we need it to do. Then this is a picture of Jen, one of our project managers. So the project manager is really important. They make sure that everyone on the team knows what they're doing and when they're meant to get things done by. Then there's the games designer. So the game designer is the person who designs how the game will work and what the player should do. So this is design not in terms of drawing things, but in terms of thinking how the player will interact with everything. And that's my background as well. Then there's Tom as games developer. So the games developer will write all of the programming and program the computer to do everything that we need it to do in order to deliver the game. So he works very hard to make sure that everything does what it's supposed to and programs everything. Then we've got a game artist or animator, and they produce everything that you see on the screen. So all of the models and animations that you see in Navigo have been produced by an artist, and then Tom, working as a developer, has put them into the game. But during development, things tend to go a bit wrong. So we have a games tester who goes through and plays the game again and again to look for any bugs or anything that's not working properly, so that he can let the rest of the team know what to do in order to fix them. So spotting anything that's problematic. Now, games testers are a really hard job. I think it's one of the jobs that people think will be great because you get to play games all day, but actually it's quite a difficult job because you have to play the same game. So while the game might be fun for the first time you play it, or even the second time, when you've had to play the same game again and again for weeks and weeks and weeks, looking for things specifically that's going wrong, it can be quite difficult to keep motivated and keep doing it. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about developing Navigo and the stages we went through to bring the project together. We've been building Navigo for 3.5 years now. And Navigo is a game that helps primary school children to learn to read. It's an educational game, but we've tried to bring forward lots of the fun bits for the entertainment games that we produce to try and make learning as fun as possible. This video here is how Navigo looked 3.5 years ago, right at the start of development. This is our very first prototype. So a prototype is when we build something, a rough version of something, to test how it works. So in this particular prototype, we were testing the movement of the character and how things navigate. The character in this scene isn't one of the final characters. We've taken it from another game and we've built a rough environment that's obviously not finished, just to test things. And you do that all the way through development, trying out each of the different aspects of the game to see how it would work. Originally, at the very start of development, we planned for Navigo to be set on a desert island rather than the pyramid that you'll be familiar with if you've played the game. And here are some early images of how that island might have looked. And an early version of the Navigo logo where it wasn't the pyramid of the lost words, it was the island of the lost words. So things have changed quite a lot since then, and the game would have started with you being shipwrecked on an island, but game development takes a very long time and requires a lot of effort. We decided that we didn't have enough time to produce the entire island, so we focused on the pyramid instead, and just producing the pyramid to look as nice as possible. Here are some of the earlier character designs that have been produced by one of the game artists. So before we build anything in the game itself, everything's sketched out. So these are some character sketches to show how the characters might have looked. As things evolved, the characters changed a little bit as well. And from these, we'll build the models for the environment. So this is a little bit later on in development. We're now starting to test the game mechanics. We've got a character in that we've built ourselves to start testing the animation system, but at the moment they've got no clothes or any of the kind of accessories that you can add in the game. And this is one of the early tests of one of the game mechanics. And again, what we do is by building these prototypes, it means that we can play them and get children to play them and give us feedback to see what they think of them. So the final game isn't actually like this. We changed things slightly to make it clearer how the words fit together, make it easier to read them, and make it easier to understand what you needed to do. And quite a lot of the graphics have changed since this version as well. So speaking of graphics, this is one of the 3D models that we created for the interior of the pyramid. And this is again created by an artist. And the picture on the left shows what we would call a wireframe of the model. And it shows you how each part of the model is made up of a flat piece. that's kind of put together like a 3D jigsaw puzzle. And this is how the models are built. And each of these flat pieces is called a polygon. And they're used to work out how that 3D model should look in the game. Right, this is a little bit later on, another one of the prototypes. This time we were testing the game Raft Rapid Fire that appears in Navigo. Sorry. And again, we've still got our early character, but we're trying a different game mechanic. And this one is much faster than the other games, and we wanted to check that the controls were right, that everything worked okay, and that the game played properly on the devices that we were building it for. Because sometimes it's why, say, a game like Fortnite doesn't necessarily run on your phone, because there's too much detail and too much going on. So we needed to make sure that we had the levels of detail and the gameplay right to work on all the devices we were building it for. This is how the game looks at the moment, and how we've ended up at 3.5 years of development and testing. So here's the trailer.
If you had a chance to be a hero, what would you do? Uncover the secrets of the mysterious pyramid. Choose the hero that you want to be. A 3D adventure game that takes learners on a journey of discovery. Are you up to the challenge?
So I would like to take any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Drew. That was really interesting. It was really good to understand about how different game developer roles that we don't normally see are sort of, how people sort of design this, and also really good to see some of those other games. I think I'm going to go back and play a few of them after this session. So, okay, I'm just going to open up for questions now for you and Tom. So, looking through, I'm going to start with a question we had before the session, and this comes from a student who's been playing Navigo in one of the iRead schools in the UK, and they ask, what's it like to be a games designer?
So Tom, did you want to have a talk about your role and being a game developer?
Yes, so being a game designer and a game developer is like quite an interesting experience. It's like every project is so different than the previous one, and it's like you collect all those skills, but you never really know what will come to your way. And it's every time it's just so exciting, and especially with Navigo, that it's like such a big game, and there was like a lot of gameplay, a lot of different parts of it. There's like the character creation, or doing the puzzles, and having to get all the answers and all that. So I would say it might be a little bit slow to start as a video game designer, but once you reach the nice moments where you have all the necessary skills to make something nice, it's really rewarding and a really fun experience, I would say.
Great, thank you. And I guess a related question, how to you, Tom, how did you get to become a games designer, a games developer? How did you get into it?
Oh, that's such a big story. It started like when I was a teenager. I was around like 12, 13 years old, and I was a type of child that loved video games. And every time I was playing one, I was like, how do they do this? How do they make this? How does everything move on the screen? And I'm the curious type. So when I was young, I started searching, and I spent a lot of time experimenting by myself, trying to see what works, how do other people do it. And as I was growing older, I reached that age where I was like, now I'm an adult. So now if I really want to do this, I can actually chase it. And it took me a few years because I was born in Greece, and the industry there is not as forward as in other countries. And I was thinking I would find another country where I can actually chase this career. And here in the UK, I'm happy that I managed to actually chase this dream, this path.
Super, we're happy too. We're happy too because we've got the Navigo game for it.
I'm glad you enjoyed.
Yeah. Okay, so another question. This one comes from Mafalda. How did you decide on the fonts for the Navigo game, and what is it? Very specific technical question.
Well, that's really specific. I can't remember what the font is specifically. We'd have to talk to one of our designers for that. But I can explain how we chose it. So it was a very specific selection process. We're supporting multiple different languages. So Navigo's available not just in English, but we cover Greek, German, and Spanish as well. And so we require a font with the right character sets for all of those different languages. But also we wanted to make sure that it was a readable font that could easily be read by lots of different children, and was particularly friendly towards people with dyslexia, making it easier for them to read and discern the different letters. So we have to recognize the different letters. I don't know if Tom remembers what font it is. No.
I can't remember the name, but I do remember us spending time to make sure it's easily readable for everyone.
Yeah, and we test all of these things. So there is a selection process, even down to what font we use, what colors we're using on screen, the screen layout, what we would call the user interface. So all of the elements that you see around the screen are carefully positioned, and we think about how people are going to interact with them to make the game what we'd consider accessible. So it makes it easy for everyone to play it.
Sounds like lots of considerations, more beyond what we would think of at sort of a really fine-grained, detailed level.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question comes from Alexei, and he's asking, who makes the graphics for Navigo? Is it an artist, and does it take a lot of time?
Yes, it is an artist. In fact, more than one artist has worked on Navigo, and yes, it takes a very long time. So you saw in my presentation some of the early kind of hand-drawn sketches of how it might look. There's a lot of those produced, and then we'll produce 3D models based on those, and at each stage we're refining them. Then the 3D models need to be animated and textured, so you'll have an untextured model to begin with, and that requires an artist to texture them and make them look nice. So there's a lot of work for artists to do. There's a lot of work for everyone to do. Games take a long time to make, and the bigger the game, the longer it takes. So some of the biggest games that you'll see, something like Fortnite, for example, will take thousands of people to build it, and it will take thousands of people years to build it, and it's an ongoing development. So yes, but game artist is very much a role that you can get in the industry, and we need lots of them.
Thank you. So now I'm going to step back and dip into a few questions that we've had from children in the UK iRead schools again. So another question that came in earlier was, you have actually answered a few of these, but just scrolling through, we have a question about grandma, and we had one child who asked, how can I find grandma and where is she hiding? Well, we had a few children that asked that question, but how can they find grandma, perhaps?
So if I may, when you start the game, you get a letter from grandma, and she explains that she's been exploring around the pyramid and the desert, and she's been exploring and she thinks there's something dangerous happening. So I can't really spoil the end. However, one thing I can say is by going to the pyramid, you can find some of the people living in the oasis. So you can maybe talk to them and see what they have to say and find more clues. Like the only hint I can give is go towards the pyramids and your answers will be found at some point.
He's like the Sphinx. I like it with his riddles. Yeah, so you'll start the game with not very many people at the pyramid, sorry, at the oasis outside the pyramid, because they've all got stranded inside. So you need to go in and rescue people to find Granny.
I can see you're in the oasis now, Drew.
Yeah, I like to stay here most of my time.
Yeah. It looks better because it's quite a miserable day here in London today.
Yeah, it's much nicer, and
I think I'd like to be there too. Okay.
It's very wet here as well, really, if I'm honest. But I've got my nice light on to make it look like it's sunny.
Fab, love it. Okay. So another question we had in advance: can I see my friends in the game?
We don't really have any functionality to interact inside the game with friends. However, we did try to pay attention to as you play the game, you unlock some clothing and some assets, and we try to think about what it would be like for you when you unlock an asset to show it off to your friends. There's no functionality to do that online with friends, but you can always do that by having a tablet and showing to your friends and be like, this is what I got, this is what I'm wearing.
Great, yeah. So I guess a related question to that is, do children get things for the avatar when they win the game in the game, or is it, or is this just in the video? Hang on, make sure I'm asking this correctly. Yeah, do children get to win things for their avatar by playing games? Is that how it works?
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
So just like going into the pyramid, you can rescue people. You can also find pieces of clothing and accessories for your avatar to wear. So the avatar's the character that you take control of during the game. So everyone starts with the same outfit at the very start of the game, but as you play, you might find different things to your friends. So you can dress your character up in different ways and be wearing all sorts of outfits. And there's lots and lots of outfits and pieces of clothing to find as you go around the pyramid. You can dress up in some pretty strange ways.
Cool, great. And again, another thing on the avatars, when did you design the avatar rewards? Was it sort of early on in the process of the game, or was it later, and why?
It's a bit of both, actually. So early on in the game, we've got some initial character designs, and we built a few different outfits for the character because we needed to make sure that the system worked, that we could swap outfits. So Tom might want to jump in on the avatar creator, because there's a whole system that allows you to change how the character looks. That's almost a separate system to the main puzzles that you play through. So I don't know if you want to talk a bit about that, Tom.
Yeah, so basically in the Oasis, if you can see from Drew's background, we have the red tent. Yeah, that one. So this is the player's tent. Whenever the player approaches the tent, they go basically in their own wardrobe, and they can see all of the assets that they've unlocked, and they can customize them to a very big extent. So they can customize things like skin color, hair, and all the clothing. There's a lot of items, and there's a lot more to unlock from the pyramid. So there's a lot of creativity there, and there's lots of options that children can do, and lots of crazy combinations.
So that the outfits we made right at the start were there more to test that we could swap things in and out, and make sure that we could change the way the character looked. But we actually made probably most of the assets right at the end of the game. So most of the clothing and outfits at the end of the game, because then we knew how much time we had left, and could spend as much time that we had left building different clothing items as we could. And at that point, we also knew that everything else was mostly complete, mostly finished, so that characters weren't going to change anymore, animations weren't going to change anymore, the environments and the lighting, so the rooms that you go in wouldn't change anymore, so that we could test how the clothes looked with the character, and know that we weren't going to have to go back and rebuild them again if something changed. So you have a set a set order that you do things in with game development to make sure that you're minimizing the amount of work you have to do again.
Great, thank you. And I guess this is a sort of related question, because it relates to sort of going into the tents and in the Oasis. Another student actually in one of our schools was exploring the Oasis and noticed that, you know, there was this other blue tent, which I can see behind you, Drew, and they were saying, you know, well, what else can I do in the Oasis, and can I go into these other tents, and what about those books that are sort of hovering in the sky? How can I interact?
Now, I'm afraid we'll have to admit that the books don't do anything, I'm afraid. Again, this is down to game development taking a very long time, and us only having a certain amount of time to build everything. So the genie character with the books was part of our original story, but we didn't get time to implement everything. So he's just, you can talk to him, and he'll say various things when you click on him. And as you rescue characters from the pyramid, they'll appear in the Oasis. And if you go and tap on them, they'll say different things, and they've each got a little bit of a story to tell. So you can find out a bit about all of the people who live around the pyramid by tapping on them. But the more people you find, the more the stories kind of evolve. You find out a bit more about all of these people.
That's really super. It's really good to understand a bit how we can interact a little bit in the Oasis area and not just in the game area, because I think that was something that quite a few children were interested in, and they really loved coming back to the Oasis. So it's great to be able to ask you about that. So thank you.
We'd love to do more with the Oasis.
Yeah.
So maybe at some point in the future, more things will happen there.
We look forward to it. So we have a question from Claire, and she is asking, are there plans for this app to be available to download on an iPad?
That's a good question. So yes, there are. We'd like to get to the point where we are supporting a lot more devices than we are currently. So at the moment, the game is still a prototype, and we're looking at what we can do to release the game to a wider audience. It's quite tricky to support lots of different devices. So as part of the prototype, we focused on just Android devices and Android tablets and some very specific Android devices. But we're looking at what we can do to expand that at the moment, so that we can support many more devices, get it onto Apple devices, so the iPad, so that more people can play it.
Yeah, I think we have a similar question every session we've done, and I think it's something which is hotly anticipated. So yeah, I guess we look forward to hearing more as things pan out. Okay, we have a really interesting question. I think, Tom, you partly answered some of this about how can you become a games designer or developer. Is there a school I can go to learn to make games?
So that, I would say that's a really tricky question. I think the most important part to become a video game programmer is to actually have the skills to make video games. So you don't necessarily need to have a degree. You can, as long as you have the right skills and as long as you have some portfolio of games you've made in the past, of work that you've done, you can always prove that you have the right skills to find the right job in the industry. A nice school or university about the subject could be good. However, I myself didn't go to one, so I'm not sure how, I can't really say which one is better or not. I myself taught myself. So I would say as long as you have the right skills and as long as you know how to do the job, that's all you need.
Mm.
It's kind of an interesting one. There are lots of games design and development courses and game art courses now. Lots of the UK universities do offer them, and Tom's right. If you can demonstrate a good portfolio of work and show that you know how to do it, it's possible to get into the industry without needing to have gone through any formal education. But formal education is still really useful, because if you do go and do a course, then it's much more structured. You'll learn a lot more about the different disciplines and how things work, and you'll get kind of, rather than having to go out and find things for yourself, the courses are very good at structuring everything. But depending on what stage in your education you are, there's a lot of different routes that you can take. So if you're kind of coming to GCSEs, computer studies is a good one to take if you want to be looking to be a games programmer, and then any of the art side of things if you want to be a games artist. So all of our artists are very good traditional artists as well, so they can draw on paper just as well as they can produce stuff on a computer, because having that kind of skill is really useful. So we can provide some links to places that will give you a bit more information about how to get into the games industry.
Perhaps we'll put those in the resources that will be available on the website after the talk, and I'll put the link to that in the chat. So I guess a slightly related question, and I think this is probably going to be our last question because we're running out of time. This question from Etienne: it's not work just for boys, right?
Oh wow, absolutely not. So I should have said earlier that 2.5 billion people who play video games all around the world, 46% of them, so nearly half of those people who play games, are girls, and we've got quite a lot of girls who work in the company producing games as well, and we want more. The games industry has a bit of a problem where it's more boys producing games than girls, and that's just because in the past probably games were more tailored towards boys, so more boys became interested in games. So more boys joined the games industry. But now that's not the case. About half of gamers are girls. So we need more girls to be helping us make games, so that the games are for everyone. So no, it's definitely not.
Thank you.
And we've got lots of girls that work for us.
Great, thanks for clearing that up. So I think I'm going to have to draw the discussion to a close, because we've run over and it's time for us to stop. So a huge, massive thanks to both of you for explaining some of the sort of insider views on being a games developer. I found it really interesting, and I'm sure everyone who's tuned in will also join me in thanking you. Yeah, so thanks for a great chat, and this I guess brings our 3-part series to an end. Thank you for everyone who's watched these events, and yeah, they were designed to sort of celebrate our Hungry Little Minds award with quality mark from the Department for Education's Hungry Little Minds campaign. And that award, Quality Mark Award, was awarded to the Navigo game, and we were really pleased with it. So this is why we sort of planned this series. If you'd like to watch back any of the other episodes, they are available on the iRead website, which is iRead-project.eu, and you'll find them in the For Parents resources page. So thank you, and it's goodbye from us for now, and feel free to continue asking questions below. So thanks and bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.